our presentation today, JaNae is going to be our presenter. JaNae Kinikin is the Science and Engineering Librarian at Weber State. She works with faculty and students in the College of Science and the College of Applied Science and Technology. Her research interests include reference services, the high school and college connection, and the information literacy. And she received her bachelor's degree in geography from Utah State and a master's degree in library science from the University of Iowa. So we're lucky to have her with us today, and I'll turn the time over to JaNae.
All right, let's make this kind of informal. So as I'm going through the different slides, if you have questions, just raise your hand. Now, if there are specific search questions, we might have to talk after the whole session, and you can set an appointment with me. Okay. So I'm just talking about searching the literature. Last week you talked in the library world. We kind of have our students choose these little basic research questions, and I'm assuming for you, you're doing more in-depth research where you're actually setting up studies and collecting data and things like that. So that's a little bit different, but you still would be going into the literature to find the information about whatever you're researching, because you want to see what other people have done, so you don't, either that you want to duplicate what they've done, or if you want to do something a little different. So this is just basically an outline slide of what I'm going to talk about today. So basically you should be great with research questions and thesis statements. Keywords and related terms, formats of information, the search tools to use, techniques, and then finally some definitions. So these are just different research questions that I've come up with. I think sometimes the research question is the most difficult part of the whole process. I know that my students, we teach the library science basic class, and that's the most difficult assignment for students, is the research question. So all kinds of questions can be asked. That's what's so exciting about being at a university student. You can research almost anything. So once you have your research question stated, what you need to do is pull out the concepts and terms from that question to go about doing your search. So I just put this: how are tablets in healthcare settings affecting patient care? And so the three research questions, or three concepts in there are basically tablets, healthcare settings, and patient care. And then the little table in the center, I actually redid it this morning because it was making more sense in this way. With the different concepts, you should find some synonyms or related terms. So with tablets, I put iPads or Kindles. Concept 2 would be healthcare settings, so you could do different areas, clinics or hospitals or whatever. And then patient care or health care. And then at the bottom, I have created a search statement using Boolean operators and parentheses around or statements, and then the phrase searching. So those are just a few ways to do your searches. Now, there's no exact way to search. So you're not doing anything wrong if you're not doing the same search. If you would have come up with something different for this, most likely. So there's all kinds of formats of information out there. When students think of the library, they usually think of books. But there's also scholarly journals, conference proceedings, trade publications, popular magazine articles, newspapers, websites, and reviews, and what I call gray literature. Has anyone heard that term before? No? Okay. It's kind of the stuff that's out there, but it's not always completely indexed. Or in some cases it is in different places. So it's a little bit more challenging to find. But you can find some great stuff in theses and dissertations. So the format of information determines the search tool that you need to use to find that information. So for the most part, library catalog is used to find books, but you can also find maps or DVDs or whatever else the library houses. Article databases are used to find journal articles, proceedings, trade magazines. Does everyone know what a trade magazine is in here? No? No. Okay. Stop me, because I may have assumed too much when I put this presentation together. Trade publications are actually, they're sort of like popular magazines, but they're designed for a specific vocational group. So In the library world, we have a new publication called Library Journal. And even though it has journal in the title, it's not a journal. It's a publication that's designed for librarians to read about things that are happening in the field of librarianship. It's not really interesting to anyone but a librarian. But it would have conferences, job opportunities. It might have an article about some aspect of librarianship. So do you have a trade publication that you read all the time? Science teacher or something?
Yeah, there's lots of them. Biology teacher.
Yeah.
Those kind of things.
And they're written it's not in the scientific scholarly language. It's written kind of everyday. You don't need a whole lot of specialized vocabulary. Good question?
So is that similar, so for like medicine, like the New England Journal of Medicine, is that different or?
That one is a scholarly journal. Yeah. Nurse Today, during the healthcare area, that would be a trade publication.
Okay.
So I should have brought examples. I'm sorry, I should have brought examples. Conference proceedings, does everyone know what a conference proceeding is? All right, I should have definitely analyzed my audience better. Conference proceedings, how many people have been to the undergraduate research conference? Yay! Okay, I don't know if you guys publish proceedings from that? So those, you go to a conference, you present your paper. Not always are they published, the papers, because sometimes there's no papers that have ever been written. But if the papers are written and they're published, they are published in something called a conference proceeding. So they're not as well reviewed as what you're going to find in a scholarly journal. So, but they still have some good information, and it's more kind of current stuff, usually. Because people are submitting to a conference to tell everyone about their new idea or whatever, and then it gets published. So they're on conference proceedings. There's actually a database that you can use to search conference proceedings. Scholarly journal articles. Yeah, we know what those are. Okay, I have another slide down the way on that. Newspaper articles, search engines, websites, and grade literature, which we have talked about a little bit already. Broke it. There. Other sources. How many people have said you can't use anything in Wikipedia? Wikipedia is not a good source of cite in a college level research paper, but a lot of times good Wikipedia articles have those references at the very bottom, and they actually sometimes have some really good information. I actually had a science student in my office last week, and he was looking for stuff on a microscope. And we went to Wikipedia, and sure enough, there were some references to books on his microscope. So you don't really want to use it as a citation in your paper, but you can use the citations in Wikipedia to find sources to cite in Wikipedia. Okay? And then interviews. I don't think a lot of students think about interviewing experts. So sometimes it's a great idea to talk to someone that has experience in that area. And you'll see it all the time in the standard examiner. Weber State University actually has a list of people that the paper can go to talk to. I see Stacy Palin's name in the paper a lot, and Sam Zeblock. So you'll see Lauren Fowler, different professors that you've heard about on campus, where they're kind of experts, and so you can talk to them for information. Any questions so far? So library catalog. How many people have used the library catalog before? And were you successful?
Yeah.
In finding what? Good, for the most part? Okay. How many people have used the Stewart Library catalog? Most of you, okay. Well, we have that catalog for our collection, but you have to keep in mind that the Stewart Library is actually a very small library. If you go to the U or BYU or Utah State, they have a lot more information. So if you're not finding what you think you should find in our catalog, there's a resource called WorldCat, and the address is worldcat.org. You can go to that, and basically it's a catalog of catalogs. So it's a great resource to go to find books, and it has actually articles, things like in there. And then what you can do is you can find that kind of resource in another library and then use interlibrary loan to order it. So interlibrary loan is a system that most of the libraries in the US are connected to. So you would create an interlibrary loan account. And then if you wanted to order a book or an article from another institution, you would just fill in that form about that particular item. And then it would be sent to you electronically if it's an article, or actually the actual book if it was a book. And you pick it up over in the library. Yes?
How much time does it usually take? Because I mean, if I'm working on a paper, I need it soon. So I mean, does that take a couple weeks or?
Papers take usually less than 48 hours. And sometimes I've ordered them in the morning and they just happen to arrive in my interlibrary loan box in the afternoon. Books, you actually have to physically move them from institution to institution. So it depends on where the book is coming from. So that could take a little bit longer. But if it's coming from the U or Utah State or BYU, and you don't have to know that. The people over there are experts on knowing where the item is going to come from. But if it's in the state, it's really relatively quick.
And whereas like library, and I guess I haven't tried this, but with the movement towards ebooks and things like that, are they having more books that you can rent from a library type, like through ebooks, or is that not really an option right now?
Well, we're exploring it. There's actually a task force that's just been formed in the library to explore ebook options. We do have some ebooks, and the ones that we do have are cataloged in the catalog. So you should be able to access them from the catalog if we have access to them. We do have Safari computer books, and I think we have Net Library books. So we have some. The problem that we're having with the transition to ebooks is the fact that most of them are not downloadable. So you have to be connected to the internet to actually read them, and they're not going to let you download them. So it's kind of we're in this transition era, and hopefully they'll figure it out. Because right now the publishers don't want to lose money. And it's a big debate in the library world right now. I would like to go towards more ebooks because I'm thinking, correct me if I'm wrong, that the younger generation would prefer electronic access versus having to have a print book.
When you're in a PhD program, you're trying to carry around 20 books, it gets pretty heavy.
Yeah, and I'm the science librarian, so I have that kind of bias towards science. And Springer has a whole bunch of ebooks that you can actually subscribe to different packages, but I haven't gone that way because, I don't know, it's kind of hard. We are getting more. So I'm assuming that the trend, like electronic journals, you'll notice that we have a lot more of those than we did 10 years ago. I think ebooks will definitely go pretty quick once we figure out how the publishers are going to let us do that. Other questions? Okay.
So with journals, is it just, who pays for, is it, most of those journals, is it because the library pays for the subscriptions that we all have access to that, or?
Yes.
How are they not losing money through that?
How are they? We're actually paying the publishers for the journals.
Okay.
But we have a couple new plans in the library, and if you're in the science area, you'll notice that the access has increased a lot, because we have all access to Springer journals and Wiley journals, which are huge publishers of information, not just science actually. But we're actually not buying individual subscriptions to titles, we're buying things called tokens. And so that those tokens can be used for any of those titles, not just, because in the past recently, you've had to subscribe to a specific journal title and only get access to that title. And sometimes it was used and sometimes it wasn't used. And so this is a much better plan. So even though we're paying $12 for each article, you have a lot more access to a lot of information. So it's moving that, hopefully more publishers will be going to that model so that we put so much money into an account and then we're paying for articles individually.
Oh, so the library actually is paying for each download?
Yeah, we have so many tokens that we purchased for Wiley and Springer. And so once that money runs out, we're done and we'll have to buy another token.
Right.
But it has increased. When you click on find full text in the databases to get the full text, it's incredible. So I'm hoping this trend continues because it's especially with science, because we were paying like $6,000 for one title for general zoology. And so if we can have access to 200 or 300 titles for the 6,000, it's much, much better.
Is the model change, excuse me, the model, that sort of model has changed for the publishers to still take in money because they're losing so much money, right?
Right, because libraries are canceling subscriptions because
Right.
we're not going to pay $6,000 for a journal that's only used twice during the year. So they're coming along. Publishers are it's kind of like the music evolution. It's happening now with books into electronic stuff. So it's painful because it all is about money. So they don't want to lose money. We don't want to pay as much money. Other questions? Article databases. Here I just have listed a whole bunch of different areas. There's more than this, but some ideas. If you're in psychology, you might want to search PsycInfo to find psychology articles. If you're in health source and Medline. Science, we're kind of lacking. We have biological abstracts in the wildlife one. We don't have a really great general science index. We do have access to chemical abstracts. Is any chemistry majors in you? No. All right. Article databases by subject. This is just the URL, and I can show you this after the presentation to get to the subjects, and then subject librarians. I don't know if you know, but every single college on campus has their own librarian. So tell me what your college is on, or your majors.
Medical laboratory science.
Okay, so you are in the health sciences. So do you know who your librarian is?
I do not.
Okay, his name is Jason Francis, and he just started, I don't know, 6 months ago, maybe less. So you have your own librarian. Anyone else? Who else?
Social science.
Social science, so Wade Cotter is your librarian. No?
Athletic therapy,
So you're kind of in education, right? Isn't that what the...
it's under the College of Education.
Yeah, and so Sean Jackson would be your librarian. Hey, we get all of them except one, Arts and Humanities. Anyone in Arts and Humanities in it? So you have Nicole Beatty. Have you met Nicole?
Yeah, I've worked with her.
Yeah. So every college has its own library. I just happen to have 2. So I have College of Science and then Post.
So when you say that we have our own librarian, does that mean when we have questions about, that's who we should talk to and contact? Is that, or?
Well, we're pretty much generalists, and so you can pretty much talk to any librarian. They will be able to help you. But if you get more in-depth research questions that I am not arts and humanities whatsoever, that kind of stuff kind of freaks me out. And so if I don't feel confident, I will refer to Nicole. And same way with her, she's arts and humanities and doesn't feel comfortable with science, and so she'll send those questions. So it depends. Most librarians can help you at least get started, but if you need more help, then you want to go to your subject specialist.
Is that by appointment or?
You can walk in if I don't have anything on my plate that day. I'll be more than happy to talk to a student. But this semester I've been kind of crazy, so I have been taking appointments. But if I'm there, I'm usually available to talk. Other questions? Most of us librarians, it seems like students and faculty sometimes seem to be bothering us when you're asking questions. Like, I have students come to the desk when I'm there and they're like, I hate to bother you, or this is a stupid question. Don't do that, because we became librarians because we actually like to help students and find information. I went to Utah State and I became a librarian because of the librarians there, because I thought that was so cool that they could just walk to the shelf and pull off what they needed for me or what I needed. So, or ask. We love to help. Web search tools. All students think that they are experts at searching search engines and finding websites. So, basic search engines like Google and Bing are really good to find statistical information as well as association and organizational information and government information. Like books going to ebooks, the government used to publish a whole lot of stuff, and most of the stuff that's published by the government is actually in electronic format now. So I put up an adsite.gov or site.org to find different domains to limit. How many people are familiar with that? No. Okay. And you can also use, I think maybe when we're done with the presentation, we'll go to cover some of this stuff. So you can use also advanced search screens to limit your search on web search engines. Sometimes they're a little hard to track down the advanced search screen. And then other web search tools, Google Scholar has kind of taken over, and it's a really good resource to find scholarly information. And then Cyrus is another search tool that you can use to find gray literature as well as other articles.
I've noticed with Google Scholar that typically you have to, a lot of the articles that it'll take you to, you have to pay to view the article. I mean, is that, would we be more likely to find it on?
Get the abstract and then go to the library site and search for it.
If you set up your preferences in Google Scholar by telling us that you are a Weber State student, it will actually create those find full text links that you'll see in the article databases. And you can click on that to determine if it is available in full text. You will not have to pay for it. But what you can do, like she just said, is that you can get the information and use interlibrary loan to order it. So this might, we need like 2 sessions for this.
Yes.
And do you have to be on a school computer to access it that way too?
No. If you're off campus though, you'll have to log in with your username and your password. So I'm guessing with whoever's been having to pay money is that their preferences have not been set up. So we'll try to cover that. Other questions? All right. Search techniques. Search techniques are just basically ways to refine your search so that you're finding information that is relevant for your research question. So Boolean operators, I think they're disappearing, but they're still in existence. Google's default Boolean operator is and. So when you type in words into the search interface for Google, it's actually putting an and between every single term. If you wanted to search synonyms with or, you need to either use the advanced search or you need to use parentheses around all terms. Okay. And then the not operator gets rid of something that's not relevant. So if I'm looking for, in the web, if I'm looking for information on the Saturn car, and all I'm finding is information on the planet Saturn, I could do not planet, and it would eliminate any of the websites that are being found with the word planet. So really the most important Boolean operator that you will use when searching is and. The second most important is or, and I rarely use not, but you can use it. Okay. Limiters are used to restrict your search either to scholarly journals, popular magazines, you can restrict by date, you can restrict to certain publication titles, and I'm going to show you a screenshot of that. Truncation, has anyone used truncation before? Okay, so it just, basically you're chopping off the end of the word and putting in a symbol such as the asterisk there, and it finds all of the endings of that word.
It's very helpful.
It's very helpful, and it functions as an or operator, basically. So instead of having to type in educating or education or educated, you can just put the education in. Phrase searching is very important, especially when you're searching the web, but it works in any database and the catalog, and it will reduce the number of your results a lot, especially when searching the web. So just put quotation marks around phrases, and phrases by, I mean 2 or 3 word phrases. So this one is bystander effect. Don't put, unless you're looking for something, it's usually 2 or 3 words, it's not a whole sentence. And then subject headings or controlled vocabulary can be very useful to restrict your search. So I'm going to show you a little bit here. So, can you see this a little bit? This is a search statement that I stole from the previous slide. These are different limiters that you can use to limit your results. I do not recommend the full text limiter because we have so much available in other databases. So this is just the academic search database, but that article may be found in Science Direct. So if you limit it just to full text, you're only limiting to stuff that's full text in this database. So don't limit it. Scholarly or peer reviewed. If your instructor requires you to find those types of publications, go ahead and click on that one. Publication, I would rarely use that unless I know. Say I want something in Time magazine. I knew there was something on some particular topic, maybe like AIDS in the 80s. I could type in AIDS and then Time magazine, and that would just restrict all of the articles found in Time magazine. Number of pages, I would not use. Reference available, probably not. Publication date, very useful, especially if your instructor says I only want publications published in the last 3 years. So you can limit by publication type or publication date. Publication type kind of overlaps with scholarly peer review. Not a whole lot, but it does kind of overlap. And I don't, image quick view, I don't really care about those kind of things. But you can if you want something. This is a screenshot of how to refine your results after you do your search. Okay? The previous screen showed you set up your search and then you can restrict it right there. I actually like to restrict it after I've already found my result set. And so again, you can use some of the same limiters, but my favorite is down at the bottom where it says subject or thesaurus term. Those terms are found within the article record. Okay, so this is an article record for tablet telerounding from urology, fairly recent article. But these are the terms that are being used to describe this particular article. So you can look there to determine, oh, well, maybe instead of using patient care, I should have used patient satisfaction. Okay. So it can give you some ideas for alternate terms. If you click on these, it's going to re-execute your entire search. So instead of clicking on it, you might want to just copy and paste it into your search box. Okay. And now for some definitions. Peer-reviewed paper. How many people have heard the term peer-reviewed? Okay. So peer-reviewed papers are basically what professors on a college campus or university campus are required to publish before they can get tenure or promotion. So they go out and do their research study, write up the results, and send it off to a journal editor, and then the editor sends that paper out to other experts on that particular topic to review that paper. And they make all kinds of comments. And then it goes back to the original author to correct, elaborate, revise. And then finally, sometimes that revision process can be 2 or 3 rounds. But finally it's accepted and then it's published. So hopefully that's supposed to weed out anything that's not accurate or someone made up data. But you always have to still evaluate. Even a peer-reviewed journal article, you have to evaluate because stuff gets through the peer review process that probably shouldn't be published. Primary versus secondary information. This kind of goes back to grade school, I know. But I kind of put it more in a scholarly sense here so that in the library, primary sources are conference papers or peer-reviewed journal articles. Those are primary sources because they're written by the person who's done the actual research. And then secondary information are things found in review articles. So review articles are basically someone, usually an expert on a particular topic is asked to write a review article. And they go out and they look at all the literature on a particular topic, and then they summarize it in a review article. And these articles tend to have a lot of references of people. To find review articles, you'll just type in review when you're doing your search. So just add in review. Usually you'll pull up some review articles. And there's some publications. Annual reviews is actually a publication. There's annual reviews in all the subject areas. And different disciplines have journals that are actually review journals. So all you need is review information. And then secondary also includes handbooks, encyclopedias, textbooks. So they're further away from the original data. So they're basically more analyzing. Popular versus scholarly. Pretty much popular magazines are what you're going to find in a grocery store checkout line. National Enquirer, People Weekly, things like that. They're glossy, lots of advertisements, written for the general public, advertising. By pagination starts in every issue starts with one. And then usually they're weekly or monthly. Scholarly, look scholarly. There's charts, graphs, figures, lots of footnotes. The authors are usually, they usually have their credentials. So they have like one, and this is from the University of Illinois or whatever, where they're affiliated. They tend to be longer in nature. Most of the information in a scholarly journal is peer reviewed, but not all. Technical, scholarly language, little advertising, and by pagination is cumulative. It'll start with volume once, and then issue. So it'll be issue 1, issue 2, issue 3 for 1 year, and the pagination goes throughout the year. Okay. That's what it is meant by pagination. Search tips. Use a target article to find some of your search terms. So different authors use different terminology sometimes. So kind of pull out different search terms to search. Keep track of those terms so that when you're searching different databases, you can use the same kind of search. And then different databases may use different subject headings. For instance, the Academic Search Premier database that most students are familiar with use Library of Congress subject headings. But if you're searching a health database, they would use MESH subject headings. So they're subject headings designed just to index medical information. So, and that's the subject heading I was talking about. Look at the reference list. References in an article are very, very useful. So when you're reading an article and you see something that's been cited in the article, go to the reference list to see what's been cited and then find that article so that you can read that. Okay? Don't just trust the original author of the paper that you're reading for the information. Go find the article that they cited. Identify newer articles that have cited your article. So, has anyone used the cited by feature in Google Scholar? Okay. There's a little link when you look for in Scholar, there's a thing that says cited by, and if you click on that, it will list all of the papers that have cited that article. If you head off to the U for your graduate research, there's a Web of Science database, and it's a database that actually shows the citations both forward and backward. So, really interesting stuff, I guess, maybe more if you're a librarian than anything else. Test the search strategy to see if your target articles are appearing. So by that, I mean, make sure that what you're searching is actually finding the articles that your target article is the best article. So, all right, that was a lot of information. Question?
So I had a question. So how does a public library compare with information? I mean, do they have really the access that a campus like that Weber State's library would have, or not really?
No. Public libraries, they serve different populations and they serve different functions. Public libraries generally cater to the general public. They have lots of like self-help books, home improvement books, popular fiction books, things like that. An academic library has more academic materials. So although we have some stuff that I don't think should be in an academic library in our collection, but we are focusing more on the curriculum of the college. And so we try to buy materials that support the college curriculum.
And then going along with that, for other universities that are public, so for example, would we have any access to the U of U's library, or
Yes.
is that restricted to students?
As Weber State students, if you take your Wildcat card to the U, you should be able to use your card to check out books from the U, from Utah State. I don't know if BYU is in consortium.
Is it private?
But SUU, so all of the state universities, you can use your Wildcat card.
And what about online sources that they have? Do we
No.
have no?
Unfortunately not.
Okay.
There's a lot more restrictive licensing. If you go to the U, you can sit down at their computer, I'm sure, and search their databases, but not off-campus access. You have to become a student at the U to pay your student fees to get access to that.
Okay.
And unfortunately, when you graduate from Weber, your access gets cut off campus. So it's all in our licensing agreements, lawyers out there, so.
Okay.
So I was doing research and we were trying to submit our manuscript, trying to decide which journal to submit it to. And my mentor, I don't remember the specifics, but he talked about some kind of like rating or a score for journals, on their popularity of like how well they're read or how many people read them. Could you explain kind of what that concept is? Because I just don't know how to look up that information with
There's
that.
actually a publication that we do not have access to, and I can't remember what it's called. It's like citation factor or something like that. And it's in the Web of Science database. It just ranks, the kind of like the quality of the journal and, the acceptance rate and things like that. We don't have access to that. You might be able to find it with a web search, but not likely.
So that's the name of it. It's the rank. That's what I'm wondering. The terminology for it.
I would have to ask, I can't remember.
It's the impact factor.
Impact
For
factor.
the
Yeah, that's
journal.
what it's called.
Okay.
And,
Is it called the impact factor?
well, that's what I'm familiar with. It may have different names, but that's what the journal tend to be ranked by
Yeah.
within each discipline.
And it's harder, the top tier ones, it's hard to get published in those because they have a lot higher rejection rate.
Well, I think it's good to know what the impact factor is, because if, you're not a specialist, then you can maybe have an idea and apply to one of the smaller ones. But I guess your mentor would have a better idea which ones are.
Yeah, they would know.
So-
And we do have a publication in the library that has different subject areas, and so you can look at different titles that you might want to publish in and their audience.